Thanks to the success of the first episode, we're going to be doing this again. Today we're going to be taking a look at a bunch of different features in Minecraft that only original Minecrafters will remember. Some of these date right the way back to the early days of the game, some of them are slightly more recent, but all of them are interesting in their own kind of quirky way. And this first one is definitely very quirky. In the current version of Minecraft, chainmail armor isn't exactly that exciting. I mean, it does look very cool indeed, but nobody ever really uses it. However, in the early days of Minecraft, chainmail armor was incredibly valuable because the only way that you could craft it is using literal fire. And you weren't able to do that in survival mode, obviously, because no one's just holding fire in their inventory. So it's just very odd. I still don't quite understand how or why that crafting recipe came about, but that's how it used to be. This is a ladder. I mean, it looks pretty nice. It appears to be working pretty well. As you can see, I can ascend this thing perfectly, but about 5 years ago, if you had built this and a Minecraft Pro saw it, they would laugh at you for using twice as many ladders as you needed to. You see, due to the strange way that ladder hitboxes worked and the way that the players interacted with ladders, it meant that you could actually place ladders like this with one block gap in between them, and you'd still be able to go up it. Unfortunately, doesn't seem to be the case anymore. Jumping off cliffs doesn't exactly sound very healthy. I mean, it sounds like a heavy impact, it sounds like bones crunching, knees breaking. Yeah, I definitely wouldn't recommend it, but in the earlier days of the game, it sounded like this. Which, to be frankly honest, it's a funny sound. It kind of made taking damage in Minecraft slightly more comical, and PvP fights were definitely hilarious. Powered rails certainly aren't cheap. I mean, gold isn't exactly easy to come by, and then of course you have to use the redstone, and you have to use the sticks, and then you have to make sure that you get them in the right order, and then after all that, you only get yourself 60. I mean, that really isn't very much. So when I first started playing the game, there was a very easy way to get a large number of rails. And that was to use a duplication glitch. And all you had to do was hook up a redstone clock to a sticky piston and push a powered rail back and forth, and then suddenly they'd just start appearing out of nowhere. It was one of the first pieces of redstone that I ever worked on. And I'm just going to get this out of the way. Shields look very cool. I like them a lot. I love the way they look. When you're blocking, you kind of shift forwards as well. And when you start getting banners involved and designs on them, they're sweet. They're an awesome addition to the game. But I still remember the days, well, before you could block with a sword, and then blocking with swords was added, and then it was removed once again when shields were introduced. And I kind of miss it, especially because it was a really nice way to say hi to other players. It's like a little wave. Zombie flesh, let's face it, is a little bit pants, really, isn't it? I mean, it's a terrible item in Minecraft. It has really no use, so I tend to, when I get chests and chests of the stuff, do a bit of that, and then do a bit of that, and I'm disgusted by the fact that I just picked up an extra stack. So you know what? Let's chuck that in there as well. But it does make sense. I mean, zombie dies, it drops its zombie flesh. In fact, when I first started playing Minecraft, zombies used to drop feathers when they died. Does anyone know why they used to do that? What? Why? When villagers were first introduced into the game, they weren't called villagers, they were called testificates, and they did nothing. They did absolutely nothing. They didn't have any trades, they didn't do any farming, they didn't do anything, they didn't serve any purpose. All they tended to do was get killed off by zombies. They were completely useless. But then when trading came along, they became very, very useful indeed, because all you needed to do is get yourself a white coat villager with a decent paper trade, and then you could go forever. There was no way to lock out the trades. You know, generally when you're trading with a villager, they will do this. That didn't used to happen. You used to just be able to go through endlessly. So as long as you had yourself a decent sugarcane farm, you could get yourself thousands upon thousands of emeralds really, really easily. Nowadays, if I just walk up to a sheep and punch it, Pater send me a cease and desist letter, and the sheep kind of runs around for a little bit, and then eventually comes to a stop. Nothing particularly exciting. But when I first started playing the game, that's how we got our wool. There were no shears to speak of. So the way that you did it is you just punch sheep and they'd explode out with all their wool, which beggars the question, what did the player's fist look like? I mean, how could you punch something and then all the hair just fly off its body? Please, someone explain. If I were to ask you what the most valuable item in Minecraft was, there's a high likelihood that some people would say diamond blocks, some people maybe would say obsidian. Obviously beacons definitely come to mind. I mean, they're definitely worth a lot because they're a pain in the backside to get. But 3, maybe 4 years ago, your answer may be slightly different. This little fella right here. Now the reason that this thing was so valuable and so rare is because they only appeared in jungle temples. There was no way to craft them, and in jungle temples, there's only 3 of these blocks. So if you wanted to make a building out of them, well, you had to find a lot of jungle temples. And you know what? The same thing sort of goes for mossy cobblestone. When I first started playing, if you had a build entirely made out of mossy cobblestone, you looked like you had some serious gear, because the thing is that you couldn't craft it. The only way that you could get your hands on mossy cobblestone was by finding mob cages, and that was it. So people would build entire structures out of this horrendous block. I mean, I genuinely think this might be one of the ugliest blocks in Minecraft. Ice melting in the current version of Minecraft is very boring. I mean, it just melts and then it flows. There's nothing exciting about that in the slightest. I remember the days when ice used to melt, but then the water didn't used to flow. Now that was a lot more interesting because of course that meant that you could place ice in specific locations where you just wanted a water source and nothing else. The ice would melt and then you'd just have floating water. It was fantastic. It was incredibly useful. In fact, this is probably one of the features that I miss the most in Minecraft. Now, as I'm sure most of you know, I don't really enjoy playing modded Minecraft, and I certainly don't make too many modded Minecraft videos on my YouTube channel. But when I first started playing the game, I did. But installing mods was very different back then. There were no mod loaders or anything like that. You actually had to go into the Minecraft jar and you had to drag and drop the files in there. And if you didn't delete meta-inf, then you'd end up with, well, very strange problems. As the sun began to set in Minecraft, this is what my hotbar would be looking like. My diamond sword and then a bunch of steak. You see, the food system wasn't what it is now when I first started playing Minecraft. Food didn't replenish a food bar, instead it would replenish your health bar. So this was essentially a set of 8 instant health potions that you could use when you were fighting all of the mobs. One design style that I personally really like, and I know a lot of medieval style builders definitely appreciate, is being able to stack fences on top of one another. Being able to create simple things like this. That didn't used to be a thing. You could have fences, of course, you know, they were definitely in the game, but being able to place a fence on top of a fence, yeah, that's not gonna happen. Looking back, that was a bit of a strange feature, to be honest with you. I don't even understand why that was in the game. One thing that I definitely take for granted in the current version of Minecraft is the ability to shift-click things onto containers. So we can just hold down shift-click, and then we can place a button on the side of a dispenser, we can place redstone on there, repeaters, whatever. Once again, this didn't used to be the case. What you had to do is get ourselves some glass, place some vines on the glass block, but then they would go onto the redstone thing that we were trying to place items onto, and then you would be able to place your button or your redstone on it. It's so long-winded. Now, if I ask you guys what's the best tool to use on these wooden slabs right here, I'm sure all of you would say a diamond axe or an enchanted diamond axe. But if I ask someone that same question back in 2011 or 2012, the chances are they'd respond with diamond pickaxe, because for some bizarre reason, wooden slabs were considered the same as stone slabs when it came to the Minecraft game code, and that meant that you had to use pickaxes on them. It also meant that they didn't catch fire, which was actually quite useful. I remember when my storage systems used to look like this. This would be a state-of-the-art storage system. If one of your friends came over and saw you had a storage system looking like this, they would be very impressed. And that's because there was no way to place chests next to one another. Now, of course, after that, we had trap chests introduced into the game, which allowed us to do a bit of this action, but one thing that I massively take for granted in Minecraft 1.13 is the ability to just place chests wherever you want to. I mean, look at this. God, if 16-year-old me could see what I'm doing right now, I'd be blown away. You have no idea how nice this is. The ability to swing a sword willy-nilly without breaking blocks in creative mode. Didn't used to be the case. I remember I built a chicken farm and some of the chickens escaped. I tried my best to kill them and I pretty much destroyed the entire thing. It was not fun in the slightest. It seems obvious. When you break a button, you're probably not trying to press the button, are you? I mean, it would be awful if the button were to activate as you're breaking it. Well, that's the world that I was in when I first started building redstone contraptions. When you place the button, you needed to know that that's where you wanted to place a button, because if you tried to break it, it would still activate the redstone contraption. That's just ridiculous. Gunpowder hasn't always been called gunpowder. It actually used to be called sulfur. Now it's funny, I totally forgot about this, but I was speaking to Grian the other day, we were moving some gunpowder around, and he referred to it as sulfur, which took me right the way back to when I first started playing Minecraft. The creative mode inventory is a very nice thing, isn't it? I mean, we've got a bunch of tabs for different types of items, we can search for a specific item if we want to, we even have saved toolbars, which is definitely one of the best features added to Minecraft lately. Hasn't always been the case. It used to just be one tab, all the items in it, and you just used to have to scroll through to find what you needed. Now I have to say, this is embarrassing for me to admit, but when this new system was introduced, I actually complained. I don't know if I complained publicly, definitely complained privately about it, because the issue was that I'd gotten so used to the original system that I knew exactly how far to scroll to find the items that I needed. I was so quick, and there was a lot of readjustment to do. Oh gosh, I haven't seen this for a little while. Right, yeah, let's get that on. It says it is incompatible, but let's just give it a whirl regardless. The Painterly pack. Now this was one of the first... Oh. This was one of the first texture packs that I ever saw. Oh wow, yeah, no, that takes me back. That takes me back. Now, I was never really a fan of this. I was never really a fan. Especially not the invisible horses. I mean, look at those. Of course, I'm joking. But, yeah. I mean, you used to watch Minecraft videos. And this is what they used to look like. Everyone would rock the Painterly pack. And everyone would be using custom versions. It was a customizable resource pack. And this is what everyone's Minecraft world used to look like. And you know what? It's not that bad. You know what? I actually, in my head, it was a lot worse than this. It's not horrendous. It's so not my style. Anyway, I think that's going to wrap things up for today. Let me know down in the comment section what original Minecraft-y things you guys remember, and also let me know down in the comment section what awful texture packs you used to use when you first started playing Minecraft, because I bet there were some atrocious ones. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please roll to that like button, and if you really loved it, then make sure to subscribe. But thanks for watching, guys. This has been Mumbo, and I'll see you later.